Hello and welcome to PubShorts episode 112 titled Paper Sun. And if you're wondering why, Tony will explain in a minute. And my name is Dr. KK and I'm the Innovation Officer at Inago. And Tony might not like the song reference. So, hi, Tony.
Well, no, yes, maybe. Anyway, hello everyone. I'm Tony O'Rourke, and I'm VP for Partnerships here in Inago. And welcome to the latest episode of PubShorts, episode 112, where PubShorts is a regular podcast which KK and I record. Where we talk about stories from the world of academic publishing, academic research, whether it's funding, technology, AI, policy. We'll cover it. And it's the latest stories. And we like to give every episode a theme, and that theme is normally named after. We're trying to find a song that it's linked to. And as KK rightly said, this particular episode is called Paper Sun, which is a rather lesser known song by Def Leppard. I think it's still, known by the fans, but it's not such a popular song. And the song's imagery of exposure and revelation very much fits this week's stories, AI review tools, open critique, post-publication checks, all shining a brighter light on the papers that we trust. And one of the things we are going to be looking at is the sad demise of a renowned figure in medical editing, Drummond Rennie. And I think we're starting off with that story, aren't we?
Right, and thanks for the segue. So it says we are talking about a story which is not a very, it's a sad story. It's the sun has set on peer review and research integrity partially because we are talking about the passing of Mr. Drummond Rennie or Dr. Drummond Rennie. Obituary published in the Lancet. So if you're not familiar with his work, he is, I would call him the main guy, or the peer review congress and the research integrity congresses or rather conferences are his brain children, and he was a giant in the field. So he has passed, and this is a sort of an obituary for it. So if again, I did not know much about it apart from the fact that I'm aware that the Drummond Rennie lecture is the thing that the peer review congress starts with. So Tony, he served as the president of the World Association of Medical Editors as well as that of the Council of Scientific Editors, which are both important from in the field. And he founded the congresses that I already mentioned, and he was recognized with a bunch of awards. But most importantly, people who are in the field, like people like me and people like, for example, James Butcher, are influenced by his work in the fields of peer review integrity as well as peer review related.
That's right. I mean, in 2008, he won the AAAS, the American Academy of Sciences Award for Scientific Freedom and Responsibility for his efforts in promoting research integrity and publishing.
Yeah, and he championed research integrity and introduced concepts like contributorship, which is authorship, contributorship statement, and consort checklist. So if you're not aware of it, it's a good time to know and maybe follow the path of somebody who has helped us be on the right path in terms of peer review and research.
He's really helped set the rules.
He has. And anyway, so moving on to actual peer review related research stories. So most of it is thanks to the Scalene weblog. So please, if you're not kept up with the peer review related research, it's a good place to catch up. So this one has, I think, 4 research papers. The first one, review score misinformed peer review detection with large language model. So a bunch of researchers have conducted an interesting study. So just a quick sort of tangent. All these stories are presented in Scalene with commentary from Claude Pro in terms of the methodology and the robustness of each of these individual research papers. So one thing that I recommend to anyone, if suppose you are not quite the expert in, let's say, artificial intelligence related research, you can use generative AI, but the pro models to query and improve your understanding. So keep that in mind while we go through these. So this discusses, Tony, this paper discusses how to automatically detect misinformed peer reviews using large language models. The authors define misinformed review points as questions that can be answered by the paper or weaknesses with incorrect premises. And they developed a metric called review score to identify these misinformed points, and there's a lot more detail. It also introduces an engine to automatically reconstruct arguments from weaknesses that are mentioned in the study. So this is a good infographic to understand what we are talking about, and this argument reconstruction is crucial for assessing the factuality of the premises. So there's another infographic, let me scroll to it. So this is another way, if you can look at it, this is how the system is devised, and the authors all also analyze common disagreements between humans and models to identify areas of improvement. So overall, it is another sort of way to determine the quality of a written review. And obviously, this is a methodology, and there are methodological holes in it, but it's an interesting way to consider whether we want to use it if suppose you're considering making systems for peer review automation. Do you have any thoughts to share, Tony?
Only to say, I think we're going to see more and more of these sort of policing tools coming through. It's so important that there are tools, there are workflows and tools and processes in place that will track and monitor and communicate on the quality of AI supported work, whether it's peer review, whether it's editing, whether it's copy editing, whether it's the submission process, whatever it is. There have to be tools that help the publisher understand, what can I do to make this better, what can I do that will help the researcher make the experience a more positive one.
Right. Moving on to the next related archive preprint. This one titled NAIP V2 De-bias pairwise learning for efficient paper quality estimation. So that's a mouthful. If there was anything that was mouthful, and this introduces a de-biased and efficient framework for estimating scientific paper quality. So again, we are at the whether the paper has merit in it. LLM methods, Tony, are costly. We know that they might be effective to a certain degree, but they're costly. So direct score regressions are also inconsistent. So this particular technology, or rather the framework NAIPv2, uses a pairwise learning within domain year groups to reduce the rating inconsistencies. So it introduces something called as a review tendency signal. Again, it's a little dense, but which probabilistically integrates reviewer scores and confidences, and the data set with approximately 25,000 ICLR submissions and metadata was created to support training. And the researchers claim, achieves the state-of-the-art performance that is 78.2% area under the curve with the 0.4.32 Spearman correlation coefficient with linear time inference efficiency. And if you're all confused by all what I just said right now, it basically means that the framework and the methodology that they are proposing increases the consistency in between in the outputs of LLMs for evaluating the quality of papers. So I think, Tony, 4 or 5 episodes ago, we talked about a much larger sort of a study which compared different large language models and recommended that you need multiple iterations of the same from the same large language model to eventually reach a consensus which will be more accurate than any individual sort of pass, right? So this improves that entire tendency by giving it some methodology. So that is a thing. If suppose, Tony, you understood it, you think that, I mean, I'm sure that you'll agree that this is the way forward, at least from a conceptual point of view, how to provide quality evidence for a peer reviewer who might be using AI as a tool to help them do better reviews faster.
No. Again, I don't have anything to say apart from what this is again demonstrating is that increasingly there will be a role for AI in peer review, and removing bias and managing efficiencies is clearly going to be an important part of that process.
Right. Maybe at the end of it, I'll ask you about your general sort of bearings, especially from the Frankfurt Book Fair regarding AI and peer review. But that's only after the other papers that we have to take care of. So another archive preprint. This you might be interested in the title. Reviewer 2 with a TOO. Should AI join the program committee? A look at the future of peer review. So Reviewer 2 is a framework for studying AI assisted peer review. It aims to improve consistency and scalability in scientific publishing, and the framework uses specialized AI reviewer personas. And it is again done using the ICLR 2K dataset, and all AI reviewers have achieved 81.8% accuracy apparently in classifying papers as accept or reject. This is close to human reviewers at 83.9. And AI excels in fact checking and literature coverage. We are aware of it, but there are some of the AI tools that do it better. And humans are still better at assessing novelty and theoretical contribution. So nothing new, but at the same time, yet another sort of signal that would probably lead you to say that you have to confirming whatever points that you just said after the previous article. Tony, any further thoughts to it?
Nothing over and above what I said in the previous article, again, another good example. We are going to see AI in peer review being used more and more. I already know from firsthand there are many institutions looking at this now and are using this now. I mean, AI. Let's be honest, AI is already being used in peer review, whether the publisher likes it or not.
Mhm.
We know that reviewers have been using AI, not necessarily with the full support of the publisher concerned, but it's a reality.
Right.
And I think anything that helps define the rules in terms of how and where it should be used is really very important.
Right. And Tony, the if at all you're wondering what reviewer personas are, you give AI a role, and this can be different roles such as
Yeah, yeah,
empiricist,
yeah.
theorist, and pedagogical reviewer. So these are different ways. I mean, all of this would eventually improve a system. And if suppose you're building the AI-based peer review assistance system, you might want to think about this at least as future features. And that's the way I'm looking at all of this, because I will, we are developing a peer review assistant, and many publishers are interested in getting on a pilot for the same development, and that's something that I'll ask you about after I finish.
And you think some of the really big high impact journals will think about the whole review process and the persona, the human persona of the reviewers that they're sending papers to. They'll want to have as broad an opinion as possible. They'll want the empiricist, they'll want the theorist, they'll want the pedagogist to think about, or maybe an impact specialist to think about, where this is taking the research forward, to get different views. And you know what? Sometimes those views might differ, might vary.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important that if you're going to be using AI in peer review, that those kind of persona are being reflected.
Right. Let me go through a COPE new guideline before I go to the last paper, and then I'll ask you about the Frankfurt Book Fair question. So this is a COPE editorial titled New and Updated Guidelines for Post-Publication Review. Committee of Publication Ethics, if you're not familiar with it, it has updated the retraction guidelines and introduced new guidelines for expressions of concern. So if you're wondering what expressions of concern are, these are not quite retraction worthy, but there are signals in the research that a researcher or a reader needs to take into account while reading the article. So again, expressions of concern are used when there are there are serious concerns, but conclusive evidence is lacking, whereas retractions need conclusive evidence. So the updated guidelines account for new challenges like paper mills and systematic manipulation. Amendments should be accessible and not removed from the record. This is what we've been also saying. COPE also says the same thing, following NISO and CREC standards. And timeliness, Tony, we've talked about this as well. In post-publication, amendments can be difficult because of legal challenges, and COPE provides guidance but cannot enforce specific timeframes. That is understandable. And the whole point is for transparency, and if suppose you're a reader, you need to be told when a publisher does something, maybe retracts a paper, or there are errors, or so concerns, expressions of concern as well. So all the sort of data should trickle through, whichever platform that you're accessing to, and
Yeah.
these are guidelines for it. Excellent stuff from COPE as always. Any further thoughts to add on this?
Only demonstrating again the importance of open review to a certain extent, that the fact the review doesn't stop when the paper is published or when the preprint appears, that there is sufficient, there is a feedback mechanism that the community can use to be able to comment back on whether the community feels that the article is moving the science, moving the research forward. And sometimes expressions of concern are not always written in an unbiased and objective way. Sometimes those expressions of concern can be for competitive reasons. So, but again, there is space for everything, and I think you should encourage expressions of concern, and those expressions of concern should be shared. And the ultimate sanction, as you say, is if there are sufficient expressions of concern and an investigation takes place, that paper may get retracted.
Right. And moving on to, as promised, the last archive article. So this one is titled Paper Copilot: Tracking the Evolution of Peer Review in AI Conferences. So it, in a nutshell, the authors are introducing what is called as a paper copilot, which is a system, Tony, designed to create lasting digital archives of peer review across numerous computer science conferences and venues,
Yeah.
thereby establishing an open data set for large scale study of peer review. So it's like assessing peer review itself, how it's done. This system facilitates reproducible research into the evolution of peer review practices, and the paper also includes a comprehensive empirical analysis of the ICLR review. So we have already talked about ICLR, which is a computer science conference, in three different researches, and that's, we keep in mind that this is all related to AI in peer review in the field of computer science. The ultimate aim is to equip the research community with tools to monitor changes, identify weaknesses, and foster evidence-based improvements for a more robust, transparent, and dependable peer review system. The ultimate goal, and that is also the reason why I want to ask you this next question, for which I'm moving on to the big video thing. So, Tony, we are developing the AI peer review assistance system, and we have been talking about it in PubShorts as well. And you probably have had conversations at the Frankfurt Book Fair a couple of weeks ago about this. So, what are you learning? What do the publishers want, and why?
Not just at the Frankfurt Book Fair. I've been talking to publishers about the use of AI in workflows for the nearly last 2 years actually. Mm-hmm. And we have the first version of our peer review assistant, which is hopefully to go live before the end of this year. Mm-hmm. And we really feel this plays a critical role. And what publishers are saying has changed over the last 12 months, where some publishers are saying, look, it provides no role at all. Now they're saying, okay, we think there may be a use case here. And that's not replacing human peer review, but it's supporting human peer review. It could be a pre-screen that when the paper is first submitted, that says, well, how likely is this paper going to pass in peer review? Right. Or it could be a peer review that takes place when the publisher is still looking to find a second or a third reviewer, mm-hmm. Or a first or second human reviewer. Or it could be to validate the findings of the reviewers or the conclusions of the reviewers. So, I think what we're going to see over the next, legitimately, I think in the next 18 months to 2 years, increasingly, is a publisher saying, okay, we're now embracing AI supported peer review to support our workflows.
Excellent. So if somebody has not yet talked to you, Tony, about the AI peer review assistant that we are developing, how should they get in touch with you? Where can they find more?
Yeah. As always, you can find out about these products on the enago.com website. Just search for peer review assistant. You'll find a link to the page there, and including the awards that we won at the 2024 ISMTE conference, which we were very proud of. Or you can contact me directly at tonyo@enago.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you about how these tools not just should be used, but are being used.
Excellent. So are you happy to talk about the quick hits that we need to cover?
Yes.
All right, that's an ascent. So the first one, it's now you can review data sets on prereview.org. So pre-review has a blog, and basically it has announced a new feature that allows the users to review datasets on their website. It is a modular review workflow for datasets, starting with those on Dryad. So Dryad is another sort of data sharing platform, and the key features for the dataset review were drafted and refined by feedback from the community itself, and the users can now request reviews for Dryad datasets as well as obviously the other functionalities of it. So Tony, you were in a podcast last week about open science, and open science is also sharing data and distributing data and making sure that data is accessible. So I'm sure that you understand why such initiatives are important.
I that's why early this week we have a podcast series, which I know, KK, you've been involved in, called Research and Beyond.
Yeah.
Where we invite special guests to talk about aspects of research and research impact. And I interviewed Kristen Rattan, who was the founder or co-founded the Collaborative Knowledge Foundation a few years ago. She was a publisher at PLOS, mm-hmm. But she's also the person behind Stratos, which was around bringing coherence and practical pathways to the global open science movement, and she co-founded the Incentivizing Collaborative Open Research mm-hmm. Coalition. Right. The point she was trying to make is that I think I can't remember the figures. Something like 90% of data goes unused. I mean, it's there, but it's not accessible, and equally, it's not being reviewed in the way it should be. So, what this paper is trying to say is, look, there's no such thing as bad data. It mm-hmm. might be incorrect, but you need to make it available and allow that researcher to make their own mind up. Right. But the most important thing is to make it open, to share it. It's interoperable, that's reproducible, so that it has global benefits. And when I was interviewing, I was thinking, is there an award for data? Is there a data award?
I think there is. I think there is. I don't remember where, but there are things that.
But there should be. If there isn't, there should be an award that recognizes data somehow, the importance of how that data is being used to develop research
Yeah.
and knowledge.
And just to clarify, so Tony, this podcast is being pre-recorded. This episode, that is. So when it comes out, the Tony interview, Tony podcast on research and beyond would have been a week before. So keep in mind and search for it, and you'll find again the same podcast, the recording on the Inago YouTube channel. Just search
Yeah,
for research and
and
beyond.
if you want to find it, you can either go to the Inago Academy and there'll be a link to it there, or just go to LinkedIn and search for Inago and Kristen Rattan, and you'll find a link to that interview. It's only about 25 minutes, so it was good.
Right, excellent. So moving on to the next one, we have a couple of stories related to US of A because we cannot stop talking about it. So how scientists are pushing back against Trump's funding deal for university. So here, I think, Tony, we covered Harvard won a lawsuit against the administration, but some other institutions are being forced to sort of comply with, the directives from the administration. And that involves obviously controlling funds as well as deciding what social ethnical groups can be of students can be admitted. So that's a concern. Obviously, this is political intervention and limiting academic freedom. This is a concern. And actually, I think I'd like to go to the next article to discuss this. So the next article is a related one. US PhD admissions shrink as fears over Trump's cut take hold. So US, obviously, apart from the shrinking admissions, there is a tendency in terms of difference of student proportions as well. I think wait, hold on, is that okay? Well, maybe that's I'm conflating it from another story. In general, the PhD admissions in the US universities are lower because of the funding cuts, and we have talked about it. The general sort of academic diaspora originally focused in the US, now it is spreading across the world because of the changing environment. So any thoughts on these two stories taken together in terms of the Trump administration effects on
Yeah.
both on
Do you have that paper available?
the which one? The wait. I forgot to thanks. Sorry. So the first one that I was talking about was this: how scientists are pushing back against Trump's funding deal for universities.
Yeah.
So we've talked about it. And the second one, another Nature news article: U.S. PhD admissions shrink as fears over Trump's
Yeah,
cuts
and
take hold.
I was talking to people from various physics societies, and it's clear that it's having particular impact in areas like physics, for example. But if I was a researcher, knowing what's happening in the US at the moment, I'm thinking about my career and where my career is going. Am I going to risk perhaps not having a career in 5 years, 10 years time because the funding isn't there? Am I going to go into industry perhaps rather than going into academia and not further research? I kind of understand them. It's sad, but unfortunately, it's where we are.
Right. So moving on to the next set of two quick hits. The first one: top AI assistants misrepresent news content. A study finds. Very, very unsurprising. But there's an angle to this. So the study found that problems happen with AI assistants on how they cite sources and their overall accuracy, and they took a look at, and we are talking about general news, okay, not scientific or citations in the context of a scientific research paper. So in this study, approximately 3,000 responses to questions, news related answers were used to understand, and it includes the chatbots like ChatGPT Copilot, which is Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, and Perplexity, and accuracy was evaluated. And Tony, very disappointed to tell you that only 45%, sorry, overall 45% of the AI answers had a big mistake, and 81 had some kind of issues. So there's a lot of issues happening, and the most startling fact that I read in the article is that Google Gemini is probably the worst in terms of sourcing the content. So remember that most people in the world are accessing their Google search through the first AI overview. So keep that in
Yeah,
mind. AI
yeah,
cannot be accurate. So this has obviously repercussions, or rather implications, in the research field as well. If at all you're using AI for your research, let's say literature review, you also have to ensure that you check the output and make sure that the sources are accurate. You cannot have hallucinated references, and this is basically the principle of responsible AI, which Tony, you might want to talk about a little more in detail.
yeah. No, rather than talk about the principle, what I'm keen to see is how this is going to change over time. What was if we ran the same research a year ago, 2 years ago, what would the percentages be? Are these percentages going up or down? I suspect it's probably those percentages are coming down, but they're not coming down fast enough. So again, I mentioned this in the previous episode. kind of important. It kind of reinforces the importance of trusted news media.
Mm. Yeah, and also trusted sources, and in the context of academic research, these are peer-reviewed journal articles, which may be behind publishers, and that's why if suppose an AI needs to have access to it, publishers and AI companies as well as libraries need to sort of cook, I guess, partner
Absolutely,
with
and
each
that
other.
maybe that should be some kind of industry collaboration
Yeah,
in terms of creating or reinforcing trust
yeah.
in peer review content.
All right. A related one: how to spot fake scientists and stop them from publishing papers. So this is obviously taken from a book title. The inspiration for that, and it's a news feature. So in a nutshell, it discusses the problem of fake scientists and how journals are trying to deal with it. We have an instance of a paper mill creating fake authors and reviewers to get their papers published, and this has led to 55 papers being published and later retracted. So, one of the ways that you can determine if it's from a legitimate author is to check for their metadata and for things like ORCID, but they have their own problems, and this is why a sort of a more complex personal permanent identifier which sources multiple data sources and sort of keeps it fresh is an important thing. So infrastructure wise, this is also important in the context of research integrity. Any further
Correct.
thoughts on this, Tony?
No, it is a major issue, and I mean, ORCID was developed, and ORCID is very good, but ORCID was developed to try and provide that sort of single identifier.
Yeah.
But even that's being abused with people creating fake accounts or multiple accounts. So there is still a need for disambiguation, and I think we're going to see standards coming up. I
Right.
mean, standards being developed, and within the next couple of years.
Right. And Tony, the last quick hit that we have is a story that broke, I think, 2 days ago from the point of our recording, and this was the biggest news. This is an Ars Technica article titled "OpenAI looks for its Google Chrome moment with new Atlas web browser." It was all over everywhere that I talked about. So if you haven't known, Atlas is a browser that is offered, I think, currently on Mac OS by OpenAI. So
It's only on Mac OS. It's not
as
available on any other.
as of now is what I let's confirm this. Yeah, Mac OS version launches today is what I read.
Right.
Anyway, Windows, it'll become available. I mean, they're not going to stop or delay this. But the point is, currently you're using ChatGPT on likely the Google Chrome browser. In my case, it is Firefox. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But now OpenAI has its own browser, which is called Atlas, and you can access obviously any website, but also it'll be more integrated in a core sense. And if you are not aware, Tony, Perplexity has its own browser called Comet, which is also, I think it was the first to come out with such a browser application. So I haven't explored this, but at the same time, I personally believe that you don't need it. I don't know why you would want. Let's say I'm arguing that the browser will have more sort of teething challenges and won't have all the features that let's say the best browsers would allow.
But Google had teething challenges. Browsers come, browsers go. I think about Alta Vista, old
Right.
enough to remember Alta Vista,
Right.
and others. Browsers come and go.
Right. But I mean, I'm a proud Firefox user. I'm the minority, but Firefox comes in baked with your the option of choosing your AI, and I think I can find it. I think Mistral is the one that is chosen right now. I can just simply go here and I can start a chat with Mistral, but I can also check which AI that I want to integrate to. So it is not a groundbreaking, ground-shattering thing from my point of view. I would prefer that people use their favorite browsers and use AI within it, which is, I think, okay. But let's see. I mean, maybe in 2 years' time, Google Chrome will be a shadow of what it is right now, and it will all be Atlas. So we cannot be, I mean, at least I cannot stare into my crystal ball because I literally do not have one, but Tony might have a crystal ball right next to him, and Tony might think that Atlas might take over the world. Do you think that, Tony?
Ask me in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, where's your crystal ball when we need it? But
I
anyway.
know, but I will say kudos to the marketing people. What a fantastic name for a browser. I mean, get to the top of the world and call it
Navigator. You
Atlas. Yeah,
remember
brilliant.
Netscape Navigator?
I do remember Netscape Navigator. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be talking about that. I do remember. I remember Alta Vista, for example.
Yeah. All right. But people may not remember all the things that we talked about in the last 111
Well, not
episodes.
everyone's as old as we are.
Yeah. So how can they remind themselves as to what we might have talked about?
Well, for those of you who've forgotten why you're here, um, so if you want to see, this is episode 112 of Pub Shots. If you'd like to see Pub Shots, why call Pub Shots? Pub Shorts. Previous 111 episodes are all available on YouTube. You just go to the Inago Pub Shorts playlist and you'll see all previous 111 episodes, and hopefully soon you'll see this one as well. And press like, share it with your colleagues, leave us your comments, give us ideas for future episode. We'd love to hear from you.
Excellent. Thank you for that wonderful intro. And Tony, any interesting musical developments? If we haven't talked about guitars and guitar purchases, do you have anything in mind?
I'm thinking about acquiring a new guitar, but I haven't decided which one yet. I'm thinking about buying a 12-string guitar. I haven't had a 12-string guitar for a long time,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of lusting after one. So I'm just currently mulling through my options.
Yeah, considering that we talk to each other a lot, and this is surprising that one of us is considering buying a new guitar. I mean, come on, who would have thought that it would
Who would
happen?
have thought that? No.
Yeah.
You can never have enough guitars.
All right. On that note, we are ending this episode 112. And until the next time, this is Tony and KK signing off for on behalf of everybody else. We'll see you in the next one. Bye, Tony.
See you in the next one.